Like, I don't know if they're struggling finding a location, and that's why they're
I'm
sending them
speculating
out
that's
now.
the reason why. All right, we'll get this recording going here. All right, we are here for the Improvement Services Committee meeting for Wednesday, October 14th. We are joined by, excuse me, Alderman David Netting, Alderman Joe Moore, Alderman Brian Danziger, Alderman Jerry Wisbiski is running a tad late, as well as our staff, including Director Steve Grenier, the original skipper of the SS Minnow. All right, item number 1, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on September 30th, 2015.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Any changes?
Anybody here?
I think we're okay.
No, I'll move the motion to approve.
Second?
All right, we have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 3, request by Alderman Danziger on behalf of Brian Shelley, 1617 Arnold Drive, for additional on-street parking exemptions for 2015.
Move to approve.
Want to give him the standard?
Question is how much? The standard, yep. I mean,
Yeah.
we've heard the case.
Yeah, he was the one that was here for that meeting.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, he's the one, he said he's exceeded the 6, but he's not necessarily asked for a certain number of additional.
Well, we can start with the 12, I think, that we give, and then, or was he asking for the actual exemption? Is that-
He's asking for additional on-street exemptions. So if he's exceeded his 6 already, I would have, I mean, the year ends, what, in 2 months? I mean, I wouldn't,
Well, how about this? Why don't we give him the additional 12, and then if he feels that he needs a full,
An
true
additional
exemption.
12 or give an additional 6 for a total?
It's near the end of the year, so. It doesn't really
yeah,
matter.
I mean, there's,
Let's just give him the additional 12.
you know, here's the thing, if you give him the additional 6, that's 12 weeks, that brings us through the first of the year, and he can come back after the first of the year.
I'm fine with whatever.
6
motion.
exemptions, 2 weeks at a time would get us through the end of the year, because there are only 11 weeks left
Okay.
tomorrow. So I would be fine, I would make that motion that we just give an additional 6 exemptions, up to 2 weeks each,
Okay.
to Mr. Shelley.
Second.
All right, we have a motion is second, and then again, we
So
can.
what we will do is, in the minutes, we'll reflect that Mr. Shelley appeared at a previous
Correct.
meeting,
Yeah.
has sent an email communication requesting some additional, but did not necessarily specify the number, and then Alderman Moore suggested.
Perfect. And I would like to see him come back then after the first of the year to reapply to what he may think that he needs. Just
Correct.
doesn't have to come back every 3 months and do this.
Correct, because if he wants the full exemption,
Right.
we would be willing to do that, but again, we just want to be clear as to
Maybe
what
in a
his needs are.
notification, we could let him know that.
Just for way of discussion, have we looked at that, and there's room on the street for him to do this, and there's nothing that will inconvenience other residents, that sort of thing?
To the best of our knowledge, this doesn't seem to be any issue.
No, and when we talked to him too, it is only for one vehicle that's going to be directly in front of his property. Unlike, I know, when the other individual was commenting last week, it was for a multiple number of vehicles that
Correct.
may or may not necessarily be in front of his property. He was a case where his daughter was in college, and then his girlfriend also, I believe, lives in Appleton, so he just was simply struggling to find
Okay.
necessary parking, so.
And I
All right,
think just to make sure we have it right into the record too, that of course this wouldn't interfere with any other exemptions like snow emergencies, things like
Correct.
that. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Fair enough. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 4, request by the owners of Quinn and Platten buildings to allow placement of dumpsters in a fenced enclosure within city-owned property known as Parking Lot F. Staff?
Okay, parking lot F is behind the Old Fort Square building. So what we've included with your packets is a graphic that shows the location of where the dumpster enclosure would be constructed. Second page shows
Yeah,
where the
really.
existing dumpsters are, and they're simply going to put the enclosure around them so they're not exposed any longer. Staff is in general support of this request, provided that a hold harmless agreement is executed, the required insurances are placed on file, and then we would ask that you authorize the mayor and clerk to execute that agreement.
All right. Do we have discussion?
I'd make the motion to approve with those stipulations.
Yeah, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 5, application for concrete sidewalk builder's license by Blazer Construction. Staff?
Staff would recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
For the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 6, director's report.
Okay, very brief director's report tonight. 3 items that I wanted to discuss with you quickly. Number 1, I did identify a couple months back, unfortunately, although we had gotten back up to full staff, We had an individual tender a resignation. We've conducted interviews, and it looks like we have a viable candidate, so an offer is going out this week.
Fantastic.
Hopefully, with a positive result on that offer, we should be back up to full staff before the end of the year again. So
Fantastic.
looking positive at that. Second item, I just wanted to make you aware, as of Monday of this week, we have started our fall loose leaf and yard waste collection. Monday, we started in Friday routes, so the progression is generally tracking 1 day behind your garbage collection at this point. Matter of fact, we made a little time today, and we actually started into a couple of Wednesday routes
Okay.
earlier today. So tomorrow, we will be on Wednesday routes.
Probably pretty thin right now, I mean, for people. to
Right,
know.
until we really start getting a dump of leaves.
I'd say
I've
that
noticed-
as the leaves haven't changed fully in my
Well,
neighborhood yet.
I have noticed the maples have started to shed pretty heavily
Have they?
already.
Okay.
So we're within 2 weeks of being
Yeah,
up to
There
our
aren't
ears
any
in-
soft maples in
I
Green
call it the
Bay.
fallout.
in leaves. The third item that I did want to
Can I just
discuss.
ask a question on that
Sure.
one? Is there an expectation or at least a hope that they'll make the full cycle in a week so that they'll stay on?
That's the hope.
Okay.
Our intent, we would love ideally to get through 5 full rounds
Okay.
through the city. That's always our goal, is to make 5 full circles. What I have on the screen is a brief presentation that I had staff pull together, and what I'm looking for is just a little bit of feedback from the three of you to let us know, do you see a value in us making this kind of a presentation to the full Common Council? And what we're hoping to do is just to get the information to the aldermen and anyone who might be in attendance or who may watch the Common Council proceedings on public television, so that folks know what to expect out of Public Works during the winter maintenance season. So again, all streets cannot be plowed simultaneously. We have to start and we have to finish somewhere. So, somebody's street is going to be first, somebody's is going to be last. Every agency must balance the resources. We only have so much material to go around. We do have to set priorities for roadway maintenance. We do have a plowing priority. So we do have priority 1 primary streets. Those are our bigger streets, your Masons, your Military, your Webster, your University.
Ashland, things like that.
Okay. Anything that goes into a hospital zone is automatically a primary street, as are school zone streets.
What about fire departments? Are those?
Fire departments as well.
Okay.
Okay. Then we get into our second priority streets, which are typically your residential streets, and then lower on that second tier come our alleys, and rural roadways are treated the same as residential streets. Okay. We actually game plan every snow event. We do not have, historically, DPW kind of had a one-size-fits-all playbook, and we just went out and we plowed snow the way that we always plowed snow. Starting with, at least with Ed Wiesner. I remember sitting in those game plan sessions with Ed as a director when I was the assistant director, and we would take a look at or weather service reports that were coming in, the meteorologists we privately contracted with, getting as much information as we could, looking at forecasts, looking at weather trends, and we would tailor our approach to each snowfall based on what we were expecting to get. Now, not only that, we also game plan taking into account the time of the year. So I will treat a 4-inch snowfall in December significantly different than I will a 4-inch snowfall at the end of February. We have different, earlier in the winter until we hit the winter solstice, we have declining solar radiation. As we start getting into the spring, the days are getting longer, the sun is getting warmer, I can use Mother Nature a little bit more to help offset mechanical or chemical means. So we actually game plan everything out. We sit and talk days leading up to snow events, or if we get one of these squall type events that pops up on us. We don't just go out and put machines on the road. We actually call each other, we sit down, and we talk about how we want to attack this. Weather dictates to a large degree how we handle snowfall events. The snow, how much snow, the temperature of the snow that's falling, the air temperature, the pavement temperatures, temperature trends, air humidity, changing conditions. Do we have declining temperatures? Do we start off with rain? Do we have snow turning to rain or freezing rain? All these things play into how we attack. Dry and clear roads, those are provided by Mother Nature, not by my snowplayers. That's just a simple fact, okay? We clear as best we can with the tools we have available, but there isn't a plow out there that can move 100% of the snow. So we do have to account or plan on Mother Nature giving us the assist there. Drivers should always plan for worst-case driving conditions, even if the road is clear, because the weather can change and we may have development of black ice. We do utilize ice melting agents, but we only use ice melting agents, salt, brine, that type of thing. On primary streets, we'll use it as an anti-icing agent. We'll go out ahead of the storms and do pre-treatment. On primaries, we will use salt or pre-wetted salt and brine after we plow. Within secondary streets, we have our known trouble spots, things that are shaded from the sun, north face exposures. Hills, curves, intersections is what we refer to. So if we have known trouble spot intersections, for instance, out in Alderman Wisbiski's district, we have, I believe it's where Sussex Road comes up to Scottwood. There's just this little bit of an up kicker at a stop sign condition, okay? Because of that little crest vertical that comes up when you're at a stop, that's always a slippery spot. So as we're plowing in the area, we hit the spinner one time real quick to drop a little bit of salt so we get some traction at that intersection. So there, again, we've got some hilly spots out in Alderman Wisbiski's district and
Sladek's district,
over in
yeah.
Alderman Sladek's district. There are a couple in yours as well, or in Danziger. So known trouble spots, and we know where these things are. This is nothing new. Okay, we've been plowing snow for a long, long time. We don't just suddenly develop a brand new trouble spot, okay? So we know where they are. Hills, curves, and intersections, that's the only place other than primaries where we do any kind of active management. Sand is not an ice melting agent. At best, it helps provide some traction on an already snow-covered road. So if necessary, we will be judicious where we put sand down, but sand is an alternative to help provide some additional traction. It will not melt ice. A totally clear winter roadway only results from solar melting. So after we've had the snow plowed and sun has had a chance to beat on it for a period of time, we can get back to a bare earth or bare snow condition. Some snowpack and minimal icing is expected, especially in alleys, okay? The way we construct alleys in the city of Green Bay, it's actually what we refer to as an inverted crown, so they're V-shaped. There's no way to get the blade down into that
That's
V,
gonna
so there's
coat, yeah.
always going to be some accumulation. Best we can hope for, even with solar melting, is to get some tire tracks that aren't snowpacked.
That's not Green Bay, right?
Actually, it is. Primary streets.
Inspections on it.
Primary streets, this is what you can expect, especially at the beginning of a snow event. It's wet initially, and then after the snow event, it will eventually get back to a dry, bare pavement condition. This is typical of a city street after about a 4-inch snowfall event, okay? By the time we get our plows out, people have been driving, it's packed down, we've got ruts and furrows and things of that nature. So this is very typical of a residential area before we've had a chance to get in there and do any plowing. Same kind of a picture post-plow. This is the expectation of the Department of Public Works. We do not have a bare streets policy, never have had a bare streets policy in the city of Green Bay for residential, anything other than a primary street or known trouble spot, okay? So snow covered or with some snow accumulation on it, but trafficable and having sufficient traction for safe motor vehicle operation, this is the standard. This is what we're hoping to get to. And this is what we will deliver in all cases. Okay? But folks who are calling you or trying to get a hold of us and telling us there's still snow on the street in my residential subdivision,
Yes, there is.
this is it. This is what we gun for. Again, hills, curves, intersections, we do spot treatment as necessary when we have to. If you look closely at the picture, we got one area in the lower left where this must be in proximity to a primary street because salt that's on your tires get dragged into the subdivision. That's how we get salt in there. But if you look, there is a little bit of ice that's built up from traffic running over snow accumulation on the road. Again, as long as it's not unsafe for vehicular traffic, this is an acceptable condition for a secondary street. Rural streets, we don't have a lot of them, but we do have some. There is always an expectation for a mix of some snowpack and pavement. Ideally, again, we'd like to get back to at least wheel tracks out there, but because of blowing, drifting conditions, these are a little bit harder. A lot of times we will have to go back after initial snowfall or after initial snow management and do some cleanup or follow-up work to get rid of blowing and drifting conditions. City is responsible for the roadway. Property owners are responsible for their driveways, okay? We do try to get out as much as possible and try to clean the streets before folks have a chance to get out and shovel their driveways. We don't like filling in somebody's driveway any more than anybody likes having it done to them. I have a lot of folks who call me during the winter and tell me that, you know, I live on a corner, do you understand how much snow they dropped in my driveway? I can tell you that I am a corner lot, and I am the first house on my block after that corner. I have about 270 feet before my driveway. And my street, I live in a plow road that's not done by a truck. I actually have a loader that does mine. So I actually know the gentleman who does my road. John is very good at what he does, and he carries a lot of snow on that blade, and when he comes past my driveway, he fills 15 feet of my apron. And I have offered to buy him coffee as he's plowing, because I know there's not a darn thing he can do about it. It's just the way it works. So what we recommend, you know, just a refresher for some residents, start on the upstream end, or on the downstream end, and shovel your way. Give them a place to put that snow if they're coming by. Shovel in the same direction as the traffic, as the snowplow goes. Give them a pocket to put the snow in. The best initial snow plowing effect is, you know, while the snow is falling or immediately after it's done. As you can see, this guy's, we got the blade down, he's carrying a lot of snow on the blade, he's doing a real good job, but there is a minimal amount of snow left behind him. That's just, it's unavoidable. The most effective tool that we have for the winter is a grader. That's because the mow board for that is located under the body, and we can actually use the weight of the machine with hydraulic pressure to get down pressure on the road. We do a lot of scraping during the winter, and I think you'd notice there are times where we get accumulated snowpack that may be icing up. And when we get a warm streak, if I don't have a lot of priority or emergency type work for my staff to do, I do take my graders and we go back out into residential areas, and we do try to do some scraping events if weather conditions do allow for that. So although we don't salt or do, you know, ice treatment in residential areas, I do take my graders and I do take my loaders where I can get some down pressure. And we do periodically run them back through the residential streets, trying to get back down to the best management we can. But again, those graders are the best thing that we have. Information, us providing this kind of information to the alders, to the mayor's office, to the general public, we believe that, you know, providing this information does lead to a better decision making. Everybody's on the same page, they know why we're doing what we're doing.
Well, I think it's about expectation too,
Sure.
understanding the expectations.
So, and attached here are the phone numbers that residents or the alders can call for questions during winter operations. So again, you know, it's about a 10-minute presentation. Do you feel that there would be some value in us making a presentation like this to the Common Council probably next week?
Definitely.
I think so. I mean, again, the big thing is it's like almost a service level agreement. The people just want to know what's expected,
Right.
what is the level of service that they should be experiencing on the main roads and on the residential. I think it's fine. I know you've explained this a number of times, but I think the illustrations clearly show this is what a residential street's going to look like. So.
And I don't know if we've ever done something like this in the past, if DPW has made this kind of a presentation. I was having a conversation with some of my colleagues in a few of the cities in the southern part of the state, Beloit, Janesville area, and they identified that they do this every year for their council, and at least they're able to get that information out and set the expectations with the council, or the council has the expectation set of their public works department, and they provided that information that helps the alders respond to those kind of questions from their constituents.
Yeah, obviously, we're going to get calls, so
Certainly.
It helps. The more informed we can be, the better.
Mr. Moore?
I got two things. First, the Mayor's Neighborhood Leadership Council, first Thursday of every month. That would be a great presentation to give all those presidents of those neighborhood
Great idea.
associations.
Love to do that.
And also, if we could email a copy of that PowerPoint to those presidents to share on their next door Old North or share with their own boards when they have their meetings. I think that'd be a great communication, because there's even people that call the neighborhood association sometimes first before they call me, just because they maybe have a relationship or it's their neighbor, you know?
Right.
So I think that would be great. Yeah, bringing it before the council would be great. And the other thing that I think would be kind of nice if we've got the capacity of doing it would be to put this into some kind of a video format that we could put on our own. Some alders have their own web,
Sure.
you know,
YouTube
internet
sites,
web
yeah.
pages or YouTube pages or Facebook pages where we could put that video on and it could start to get circulated a little bit. I think that that's a great way. I mean, social media for communication is just like, that's all it is now.
Well,
So
we could make it viral. We could dress up Director Grenier as
yeah,
perhaps like
it could be narrated.
by Director Grenier. Maybe we could dress him up as one of the characters from Frozen.
Right, there you go. See, I mean, you look at, you know, these GPS devices now that have like Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice on
Yeah.
them and stuff. Like, you know, if you could do that, and be like, this is the city plowing policy, you know, and I mean, that would be great. Okay, maybe not that much.
I'll talk to Shelby to see what she can do. But,
It's not a stone.
But yeah, I mean, if we could get that into video format, maybe at the beginning where it's just all the words, all the writing. I don't know if people
Sure.
read that so much, but when you've got the picture with the before, after, those are great things in a video. It says, this is what it looks like before we hit it. This is what, you know, we expect it to look like when we're done.
Well, and having the capabilities in-house to be able to do that with the studio upstairs. I think
Yeah,
We've got
yeah.
some flexibility to do some things like that.
Yeah, one other challenge of that too, I think it also demonstrates that it is a challenge sometimes when the road's been packed down and you've already had excessive
Right.
traffic on some of those residential areas. It's not as easy as simply coming in and cleaning it out. I mean, look at your own driveways. If you've had to
Yeah.
come in and out a few times, cleaning off the driveway itself is.
And then
is
it warms
not-
up a little bit and people are driving on it and just kicks it all back
Yep,
up again. So
exactly.
like, it's not even snowing. It looks
Obviously,
like it's
something I don't have in the presentation, but that we all know about with the AVL system that we have. Now we have the ability
Right.
to, in a post-storm situation, we can go back and we can pull that historic data.
Sure.
So if we get a complaint or a concern from a resident constituent that says, hey, I don't think my street was plowed, we can go back and we can look to find out, yeah, the plow did come through. He was on your street, on your block, at this approximate time. While he was there, the blade was down, the wing was down and deployed. He did not have the salt on. When we were on the primary streets, we did treat the primary streets. We were on, you know, this particular section of East Mason Street. I had 3 trucks running in echelon. The salt spinner was on, the pre-wet was on. Here's the settings. We were doing this. You know,
just
so-
do it nicely because the person who called is probably irritated to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh, no. What we want
Follow it
to
up
do is
with, is there a specific area of concern that you
what
think
we
we
want
need
to
to
do
address
is we want to
again?
make sure that we can tell people, yes, we did have
Yeah,
somebody out
absolutely.
there, or.
Well, then you
thanks
can
for-
tell us, and
thanks
that's big
ca-
for us.
Thanks for calling. You're right, the plow hasn't got there yet. You're in this route, and based on what I can see, he's about, 4 blocks away in this part of the subdivision, so he'll be getting to you within the next 45 minutes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great.
I had just a couple of thoughts, just based on calls I've had, in the past, former life as well as recently. I think people are interested in what we're putting down for ice control. And, I know they used to use salt and sand mixture, and then they tried some kind of beet juice, and
That was messy.
and I guess now it's pretty much what, a liquid calcium chloride, or
Well,
what do we use?
We use primarily, rock salt is still our primary weapon for snow and ice management. So good old fashioned sodium chloride is still the best, most cost effective tool to use. No matter what we put down, all of our granular material is what we refer to as pre-wet. So there's a brine that's sprayed on it.
Yeah.
Our primary brine is a 23.7% sodium chloride brine. So we're using the same rock salt that we
the
put
way
in
you-
the trucks.
The way you apply it, though, depends on the conditions, right? There's some science, there's some science to that.
Correct. It's primarily due to temperatures.
Yeah.
Sodium chloride is good down to about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have tanks with all of our salt capable trucks. We have 4 trucks that are liquid only. So that each one has a quad within the city. So when we're going out and doing anti-ice preventative before a storm, where you see the cake stripes down the street, there's only 4 trucks in the city that do that, and each one of them's got a quad. We have an additional, I think I've got 23 trucks that are capable of distributing material. Each of those trucks has saddle tanks that go underneath the box, and then the salt is in the box. So as the salt is coming off the spinner, there's actually jets that are spraying the brine onto the salt as it's coming off the truck. Salt is activated by pressure and water. So simply putting rock salt on something won't cause any effect. When you run over it with the tire, that pressure helps activate it. And what happens is it actually creates a thin layer of water between the salt granule and the ice, and that water activates the rest of the salt and it continues to propagate, okay? By adding a brine to it, you're triggering that salt and causing it to activate automatically. So that's why we pre-wet. The other reason we pre-wet is because by introducing a water stream onto that granular material, it cuts down on what we refer to as bounce and scatter. We lose over 30% of our salt in bounce and scatter if you don't pre-wet. So based on temperature, brine will get you so far. Once you get below 15 degrees, sodium chloride is ineffective, it just won't work. We then switch over to calcium chloride. Calcium's got a lower melt point, and I can get down to between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit by going to cal chloride. Drawback is, several drawbacks. Calcium chloride is much more expensive, highly corrosive. Does a bad number on the equipment, does a really bad number on concrete. It will pit and cause your concrete to start slaking off or sheet spall. If we start getting any lower than that, that's where people start looking at geomelt or beet juice, okay? We've not had very good success with beet juice. We have one more tool in the box we can go to, and that's magnesium chloride. For the jump in corrosivity and problems going from sodium chloride to calcium chloride, we got another factor jump there going to mag. Mag chloride is really, really a corrosive substance, so we don't like to do that. Typically what we do, the first step we'll going towards cal chloride is we run a blend. So we can run a 95.5 of 95% sodium chloride brine with 5% cal chloride. We can run a 90-10, we run an 85-15 and an 80-20. Typically don't go beyond 80-20. If we're going beyond 80-20, we're wasting sodium chloride. We'll put a lesser amount, but go straight cal chloride. So again, weather factors, atmospheric conditions, all of those play in, but snow fighting has gotten to be a science.
Yeah.
We have to have guys who are amateur meteorologists and part-time chemists that.
Yep, okay, well, very good. I think people are interested in that kind of thing. We used to have a policy, I remember, that if there was something like 3 inches of snow, then that would trigger the residential plowing. Do we have a general policy
We do.
like that?
It's 2.
And what is our policy?
2 inches.
2 inches.
It's a 2-inch snowstorm or 2 successive storms that would accumulate a total of 2.
It triggers a full residential.
Would result in us doing a plow event.
Okay. Do we ever do one side of the city and not another if the conditions warrant? If one side of the city
Generally
is worse
speaking,
conditions than another?
in my time as director, I have never had to do a partial city plow.
Okay.
Okay? There are times where part of the city gets hit harder than the other part of the city. That is not uncommon whatsoever. So I've had situations where we've called for a full plow and guys are reporting in on far west side out by Alderman Sladek's district that Steve's is only an inch of snow out here. Okay, you're out there. We call for a full plow, drop the blade and get it off. Okay, that's just, don't spend a lot of time dilly-dallying. If there's only an inch, you're gonna be able to move a little bit quicker than if there's 5.
Just get through
Okay,
that.
so let's get through it and get done. And during that same storm event on the far east side of the district, I've had 6 inches. Okay, so that is Green Bay is 45 square miles worth of
A
territory.
lot of variation can occur.
You know, and I had the same conversation with my wife. Well, why is it so much here than over there? And I keep telling her,
Lake effect.
the storm, every storm has to begin and end somewhere. You're on that line where.
Like I said, it's all variations then.
Well, that's helpful. And I guess the final question I had was, in terms of the residential streets, is there a particular order, or do we change that order?
There, in an ideal situation, I have a piece of equipment for every route. Now, due to vacation schedules, illnesses, breakdowns, things of that nature, sometimes it's physically not possible. When it's not possible, again, we have areas that are a little trickier than other areas due to tree cover, canopy, more hills than others, things of that nature. We will dedicate equipment to the trickiest spots first. We don't always leave the same routes for last. We will mix that up. Okay? So if you happen to live in a snow route that's wide open and flat, you're not going to be the last guy plowed all the time. We will alter you with another route that's maybe not as tricky. Okay? Within individual routes, there's an entry and exit point from the route, what we refer to as the top and the bottom. Okay? First time we plow for the year, we go in at the top. The next time we come in at the bottom. So we'll plow the routes in reverse order on alternating storms, so that
Right.
I'm not always the last guy plowing.
Right.
Next time you're the first.
Yeah, well, that's good to know.
Yep.
Because some people say that, well, I'm always the last
Right.
one that gets plowed. All right, anything else, Mr.
No,
Denny?
those are all the questions I have.
All right, Mr. Moore?
I'm happy.
All right, well,
And
I
actually,
would
with
say
the
do this
plowing,
next
one of
time.
the things that, that surprised me when I got involved with this was, for a street, it typically takes 4 passes. Even though some of my equipment's hanging 18 feet of iron, it still takes 4 passes. Because the first pass, we're coming through and getting the driving surface open, and then we're coming back and pushing back to the curb. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we
It
start
starts to
losing
push
the
it, yeah.
roadway. And we have to do that in each direction. So, one of the things that I do have a couple of alders that I would like to schedule some meetings with. No big secret. One of my priorities when I took this position was I have a huge emphasis on safety. One of the things that I'm the most proud of in the 3 years I've been doing this is the significant decrease in workers' comp claims or work-related injuries that are reported in public works. So the quality of life of my employees, making sure they can go home and enjoy their time at home is very important to me. With that in mind, I'm equally concerned with safety of the public and of the residents who live here. We have a couple of routes that have streets with boulevard cross-sections. And for whatever reason, somehow there was a decision made years and years ago to plow that snow to the center, as opposed to plowing it to the outside. With the way our equipment is structured now, we can't just take a dump truck or a snowplow truck and swing the blade the wrong direction. It just doesn't happen. Okay, the blades are intentionally built and constructed and mounted on the truck so that they plow to the outside. So the only way to plow to the center, we have to plow counter-directional traffic. During daytime plow events, I'm running trucks the wrong way against traffic on a boulevard section in order to do that. At night, I'm running them against traffic. Okay? There's a safety factor that I'm just not comfortable with any longer. The other problem is on a lot of these boulevard type streets, my municipal utilities, our storm sewer and our sanitary sewer runs down that median. Now I'm piling 14 feet of snow on top of it, and if we have a sanitary sewer break in the middle of winter, I can't get to it. So I'm going to be meeting with some of the alders. One of the things I'm going to be proposing this year is I'd like to stop plowing counter-directional on boulevard streets. That's going to be wildly unpopular with the folks who live there because historically they've not had to worry about plow chaff on their driveways, and now they're going to. But in my opinion, the safety aspects and the infrastructure aspects outweigh some inconvenience that every other resident in the city has to deal with.
I think that's a fair and reasonable request.
So just something that's going to be coming up that you may be hearing about.
All right, fair enough. Very good presentation. I appreciate that, and I would recommend providing that to the council at
I
the next
appreciate
meeting.
feedback. Jim's been taking notes, so we'll try to get some of those things actually addressed in the presentation
Okay.
before we come.
Do we have a receive and place and file director's report?
Make that motion?
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Yeah.
Second.
All right, all right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? That motion carries. Well done, everybody. Chip, chip.
Director Green.
Uh-oh.